Texas is going to go into Bryant-Denny Stadium at 6 p.m. on Saturday, and they are going to whip Alabama's asses. And I'm going to tell you why in today's episode. So be sure you stay tuned and don't click away. Before we get into Saturday's game, let's go ahead and just take some historical reference based on last year's game. And let's also go over what we saw from both of these teams in their first outings. So just to give some historical reference, if you did not know, if you've been sleeping under a rock, your first year ever following college football, last season, #1 ranked Alabama came into Austin, Texas at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium and walked out with a 20-19 victory over an unranked Texas team. Now, why is that significant? First off, let's just get into the facts of the game. Texas lost that game 20-19 with the last second field goal by Alabama, but they left tons of points on the board. Xavier Worthy dropped a touchdown. We missed a field goal at the end of half. And let's not forget the targeting call that was called against Bryce Young in the end zone on a pass that he threw while he was on the ground practically, threw the ball into the dirt for an intentional grounding as well. The play that would have given us a safety, the lead, and the ball back, none of which happened. Instead, Alabama was able to get out of that series with a 4th down and punt it away to us. That was a major turning point in that game. It really affected the overall outcome. Why is this important? Well, let's just get into a little bit of a breakdown of Alabama's team last year. Who did they have on that team? Bryce Young, #1. The best quarterback that Alabama has had in who knows how long. And he was under duress and under pressure that entire game. He did what he does. He made plays with his feet. He was innovative. He is a creative quarterback, and he made plays downfield that allowed Alabama to stay in the game and ultimately get the win. But let's not just forget about the fact that this was an unranked Texas team who was supposed to be getting steamrolled by a #1 ranked Alabama team last year. This Alabama team had a plethora of NFL draft picks on that team. Will Anderson, Brian Branch, Kool-Aid McKinstry, who is still on the team, Jahmyr Gibbs, of course Bryce Young. That O-line was phenomenal as well. So that team was stacked with talent. Talent that Texas did not supposedly have, and we gave them fits all day long. Bryce Young looked miserable behind that line of scrimmage and in that pocket. He could not for the life of him just get a good, clean pass off. Why is that important? Well, fast forward to today's team. Who is behind center for Alabama? Jalen Milroe. Now, this is no disrespect to Jalen Milroe. I think that he is a phenomenal athlete, 100%. With the ball in his hands, with that ball tucked and running, Jalen Milroe is as big a threat on the field as any player. But if Jalen Milroe is forced to stand in that pocket or make a quick read under duress, well, let me just tell you, he's not Bryce Young. I have a lot of confidence in this team being able to get the job done. You see what happened. We had the upper hand on Alabama and let those points squander and let that game kind of squander away. That gives us a very good idea as to what to expect from this team going into Saturday. Let's go ahead and get a little bit into Texas, their key players, and why I believe they have the team today to really put Alabama on its heels and make their stamp back into national prominence for the first time in over a decade. First things first, look behind the center. We have a clear advantage, in my opinion, in the quarterback department. Now, we don't have the athlete at quarterback that Alabama does. Jalen Milroe is bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, he's better on the ground. But unquestionably, Quinn Ewers has the biggest and the better arm of these two quarterbacks. And he has more weapons. And quite frankly, in my opinion, he has way better weapons to work with than Jalen Milroe does. Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Isaiah Nayor, Jordan Whittington, Jatavion Sanders. We have a ton of talent on that offense. Our offensive line, is going to be fully back together again. The starting five from last year, all last year's starting five, is going to be playing Saturday for the first time this season. We didn't get to see that against Rice, and that actually kind of showed. Rice was able to get some pressure on the quarterback, confuse our line a little bit, and kind of showed some glaring weaknesses on the interior of the line that I think is going to be corrected now that we have Hayden Connor back in the mix. We've got it established that we have the better quarterback. Now granted, he does have some things to clean up that we saw expose themselves in the Rice game, such as poor footwork in the pocket, throwing off his back foot and not stepping into his throws, leading his receivers out of bounds, just not being able to locate that deep ball. These are still concerns that Quinn Ewers has that I think that he's going to have corrected in this game. But when it comes to the intermediate and short game, Quinn Ewers is second to none as far as arm talent and ball placement is concerned. He is incredible from that 10 to 25 yard range. He can make any throw on the field, and he does consistently make every throw on the field from that range, week in and week out, and he has since he's been a starter. Another thing to look at outside of just ability is experience. This is going to be Quinn Ewers' second full season as a starter. Remember, he went out in last year's game in I think it was the end of the first quarter, after tearing Alabama's defense apart. An Alabama defense that is riddled with NFL talent. Brian Branch, Will Anderson, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and others. Henry To'oTo'o, who is no longer there as well at linebacker. They have a new linebacking core, new players on that defensive line. And while Alabama's defense is talented, they are not the 2022 Alabama defense that really struck fear in opponents. I don't think that this Alabama team on either side of the ball strikes fear in anybody. They are big, but one thing that I saw in their game against Middle Tennessee State is that they are not extremely or overly physical. Moving on, the running back room is where it gets a little interesting. I still am going to give the edge to Texas in the running back room, and that's simply because I think that as far as talent is concerned and ability is concerned overall with the running backs that we have, I do believe that we have a slight edge. Now I know Jace McClellan is going to be the featured running back for Alabama, and he was actually the one who carved us last year for a huge run. I think it was like a 70-yard run or something like that. We had been playing excellent defense all the way up until that point, hits the crease, and he was gone. It is what it is. It happens in football. With that being said, I believe that Bama has a talented running back room, but they are a very young running back room. Experience with Jonathan Brooks, the abilities of Keelan Robinson, and of course, if Cedric Baxter is playing, I think Cedric Baxter is going to be the best running back on the field. You saw flashes of that in the Rice game before he got injured. Very explosive, even in limited action. He showed great vision. He was very patient. He had great burst through the hole, and he had great physicality between the tackles. So Cedric Baxter, in my opinion, is going to be really the running back to look out for if he is healthy in Saturday's game. Between Cedric Baxter and Jonathan Brooks, we have the better two running backs between the tackles and an open field. Now, when you throw into the mix Keelan Robinson and his speed, he brings an entirely different dynamic to this offense. If you can get Keelan Robinson the ball in space against this Alabama team, I think he's going to give him a lot of fits. One thing that I saw against Middle Tennessee State is once Alabama's front seven got spread out and forced to move laterally and was not able to just pin their ears back and go upfield, Middle Tennessee gave them some problems. Now, to be fair, they don't have the talent, much like Rice doesn't have the talent on the offensive, well, on any side of the ball. They just aren't better than Alabama in any capacity, much like Rice was not better than Texas in any capacity. But they were still able to pick up large chunk plays and really drive down the field. With that being said, I think the run game is going to be the most important aspect for both of these teams going into the game. That is why I'm putting so much emphasis on this running back room and why it's so important. Whoever can establish the run and establish the line of scrimmage with their O-line, D-line, in my opinion, is going to win this game. That's where it's really going to come down to. The game is going to be won in the trenches. If Texas can really start to open up lanes and pick up big chunks of yards on the ground, the passing game is going to be so wide open. And I'm telling you right now, Kool-Aid McKinstry is a great cornerback. Caleb Downs is a great safety. Malachi Moore, they're all great in their own ways, but they will not, mark my words, they will not be able to cover all of these receivers if they're just going to play straight man coverage, which is what Alabama is accustomed to doing. Nick Saban is a smarter coach than to just straight up line up in a 4-down front, 3 linebacker front, go play good on good. Because I think that he knows we have the better skill position players offensively compared to defensively. Now I know that he's got talent. Caleb Downs is not your average safety. He's going to be a major factor actually in this game because he already as a freshman is kind of their quarterback, their general on the defensive side of the ball. Very unusual freak athlete at safety, but I don't really think it's going to matter if I'm just being completely honest. Unlike what a lot of people believe, I think that Texas is better than Alabama across the board, nearly every position, with an NFL-laden team. Alabama should have lost at least 3 or 4 games last year, including the game to Texas. With everything that we have returning, this is our 3rd year in the system. This is all of these players' 3rd year offensively and defensively in Steve Sarkisian's offense and in Coach K's defense. One thing that I thought we could take away from last week on the defensive side of the ball is that Texas is playing completely free. There's no thought that is really going into these players defensively. And if you understand the game of football, you understand how important it is to be reactive and not to be thinking on the field. And for the first time in Coach K's tenure as a defensive coordinator, the team doesn't seem to be thinking on the field. They are simply reacting and playing the game because they have an understanding of what is going on. Before we move on to the defense, let's just go ahead and break down this wide receiver room. I've established the fact that I think Texas has a better running back room overall. I think overall Texas will have a better day on the ground. I believe that Steve Sarkisian has these guys ready to play on a different level. They believe in themselves after last year's game against Bama. They believe they're a team to really make a run and push for national contingency, the national spotlight. They believe that they were a good enough team. They had some bumps down the road, and it is what it is. This year's team is going to come in with a completely different sense of focus and energy. And I think that they're going to come in to prove a point. I think this O-line is going to really get after Alabama's D-line. This O-line is going to make Alabama's defensive line prove that they are good enough to hold up in the run. Because I think in the pass game, we're going to be fine. To be quite frank with you, I know we had some problems against Rice in their amoeba fronts, their studs and blitzes, but I can guarantee you there's going to be a whole different focus. It's going to be a whole focus shift. It's not even the same. Week 1 to week 2, Rice to Alabama, this team's intensity and focus is going to be 100 times different than it was against Rice. And quite honestly, I don't think that we're going to see the same issues that we had in the Rice game show up in this game. Because I just think that the players are going to play up to the moment. With that being said, Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell are going to be extremely important in this game. In last year's game, Xavier Worthy was getting open nonstop. I think Xavier Worthy is one of the best wide receivers in the entire country. He can get over the top on anybody. So you absolutely have to watch out for his speed. He's got like that Deshaun Jackson type speed. So fast twitch. His stride is incredible. He can get over the top quickly, and if he gets over the top, goodbye, right? But he is also incredibly smooth in intermediate routes. Xavier Worthy's footwork in and out of routes are also elite. A.D. Mitchell has seen Alabama multiple times. He knows how this team operates. He knows how Nick Saban works. So I think his experience against Alabama is also going to be a key factor in this game. He can tell everybody what it's really going to be like playing against a Nick Saban-led team. To be fair, this team is going to be experiencing Bryant Denny's atmosphere for the first time in their history. This team hasn't played in Alabama since 1902, over 100 years, and you can guarantee that the atmosphere back then is nothing compared to what it's going to be come Saturday evening. So Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, those two immediately out the gate are going to be very important pieces in this offensive scheme. And then, of course, everyone seems to, for some reason, forget about Jordan Whittington. In last year's game, Jordan Whittington was going absolutely nuts on Alabama. He had multiple catches in the first half over the middle of the field. He was really exposing Alabama's defense in the middle of the field. He's an excellent slot receiver. He knows how to find space. He knows how to find the openings in the zone defense. And he is absolutely a good enough route runner to beat you man to man. Jordan Whittington is a problem at that slot receiver position. And then you combine Isaiah Nayor, who we have yet to see. He was an absolute stud transferring in. I believe it was from Wyoming where he transferred in from. He was an absolute stud. And we have yet to be able to see him in real game time action on the field. We saw him catch an absolute rocket from Malik Murphy against Rice. So we know he's got the hands. And it was in traffic, so he's got the concentration. They know that he is a real problem. So that's 4 wide receivers that can really, really stretch the field and make Alabama stay on his toes and really force that Alabama linebacking group to make plays in the pass game and in space, which I think they're going to have a lot of trouble doing. This Alabama defense is not built to run sideline to sideline. They are built to line up in front of you and try to beat you good on good. And I just don't think they're going to be able to beat us good on good. That's just my opinion. With X's ability to take the top off the defense, Adonai Mitchell on the other side, Jordan Whittington in the slot, Isaiah Nayor, and then Jatavion Sanders, who is a huge playmaker at tight end, not only in the passing game, but in the running game as well. He is huge when it comes to run blocking. He's a huge part of our run blocking scheme. Everybody is naturally going to say that Alabama has the more talented players because they're Alabama, but when you look at the film doesn't lie. And the film tells me that Texas has the recipe to go out there and beat Alabama by double digits. And I mean whip their asses. I think we are going to deflate Alabama. Jalen Milroe is going to have so much trouble against this defense. I don't see where Alabama just completely knocks Texas off the board. They're a 7-point favorite in this game, which is crazy to me. Did y'all not see what we did to Bryce Young last year? Jalen Milroe is not Bryce Young. This team is better defensively this year than it was last year, and they gave them fits last year. Texas's defense gave Alabama absolute fits last year. What do you think they're going to do against Jalen Milroe? Moving on. The defense as a whole of Texas is our strongest point this year. For the first time in over a decade, I think we have one of the better defenses in the country, and we have a defensive coordinator who really understands how to control the game defensively. When you look at what Alabama is going to be trying to do against Texas, they are going to try and establish the run, establish the QB run option game, and open up holes for that short and intermediate pass game. Because, to be quite honest with you, I know Alabama's going to take shots downfield. Not worried about the downfield shots. I think we easily have the back end to cover Alabama's receivers. I think our skill position players are better. I think our cornerbacks are better than their receivers are. I think their safeties. I think our safeties are extremely intelligent. We have Jalen Catalon coming over from Arkansas, who is arguably the best safety in the entire country. Jaron Thompson has played a lot of college football for Texas, taken a lot of snaps. Gavin Holmes, coming from Wake Forest, is a very sticky defender. Ryan Watts, playing that boundary side cornerback position, is going to be instrumental in the run game and establishing that edge. And our linebackers, Jalen Ford, you put Jalen Milroe in second and third and long situations, and you allow Jalen Ford to know that Jalen Milroe is going to be dropping back and looking to pass, good night. Jalen Ford is an elite linebacker. I don't need to see more games from Jalen Ford. I know Jalen Ford is an elite linebacker. I see it every time he steps on the field. He gets smarter, and he understands the game better every single time he takes the field. He is the general on that defense, and I think he's going to put us in extremely good positions to take advantage of Alabama miscues and long yardage plays. Our defensive line, in my opinion, if not the best, one of the best in the country. With Tavondre Sweat, Alfred Collins, Ethan Burke, Anthony Hill, Baron Sorrell, Byron Murphy. Come on, man. We're so deep. They're so deep. There is no weakness on that D-line especially. But when you look overall at the defense, I just don't see where the weakness is. I don't see where Alabama just is flat out better than Texas at any position on the field. For the first time in a very long time, we haven't been able to say that. For years, Alabama has taken the field against opponents and everybody says, holy shit, look at that team. How are we going to beat them? And I just don't get that from this Alabama team. When I look at this Alabama team, and even reviewing last week's game, I think, we can really beat, not only can we beat them, we can really whip their asses. And I think that's exactly what we're going to go out and do. Call me crazy, but after Saturday, when we come review this on Sunday, don't be surprised. This is Colorado TCU all over again. I told you, Deion Sanders was going to have that Colorado team primed and ready to come in and not just look to play, but look to win. And what did they do? They came out and won that game. Well, much like that game, I'm telling you, Steve Sarkisian has these guys in full 100% belief. Not only that they can win, but that they are the better team. And I subscribe to that thought. I think all around the board, we are the better team. And I think we're going to show that. What are some of the keys to victory for Texas? We've got to establish the run. We've got to establish the line of scrimmage. We've got to win at the line of scrimmage. Like I said earlier, this game is going to be won in the trenches, in my opinion. And not because we're going to have 150, 200 yards rushing. But we are going to have to establish the run enough to get those linebackers and those DBs playing down in the box and fearful of the run, so that way we can take them over the top. The intermediate game is going to be open. Listen to me. Listen when I tell you, and I know Steve Sarkisian has got to see this. One of the things that has plagued Bama's defenses last year and in previous years has been the middle of the field. Because Alabama believes so strongly in the ability of their players, which, to Nick Saban's credit, why wouldn't he? He believes so strongly in his players' ability to beat you one-on-one that it leaves opportunities open in the middle of the field. That is where I think the game is really going to be won at the end of it all. We establish the running game, we open up the deep and intermediate pass game, and it's over. I'm telling you right now, if Steve Sarkisian can get Quinn Ewers into a rhythm and get him firing these passes downfield with no thought, with no hesitation, the game is over. What does that mean? We have to stay ahead of the chains. We have to establish the run game on first and second down, make second and third down short and manageable, because that's going to open up the rest of the field and the rest of the playbook. And we have too much skill on the outsides to not be able to take advantage of short field opportunities. Of course, the O-line has got to correct the communication issues that we saw plague them against Rice. But again, I don't really think that's going to be too big of an issue. I think they know what's at stake, and I think they're going to get those issues corrected. Quinn just has to be able to hit a deep ball. For the love of Christ, Quinn Ewers, when you get your rhythm established, just deliver the deep ball with no thought and no hesitation. Just throw the damn ball. You're an uber talented quarterback. You have ridiculous arm strength. You can make any throw on the field. We all know this. So just make the damn throws. With that being said, Steve Sarkisian has to put Quinn Ewers in position of confidence to go out there and execute and make throws without fear. That means we can't take deep ball shots every damn first down that we have. We cannot get into 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s. In that Rice game, our average down and distance on 3rd down was 3rd and almost 9. I think it was 8.9 yards to go. Almost 3rd and 9. We cannot get behind the sticks. If we get behind the sticks, well, then Alabama's defense is going to show you exactly why they're so damn good. Because they're going to be able to pin their ears back and really get after the quarterback. Hello, Quinn cannot escape the pocket. We cannot allow that to happen. I think Steve Sarkisian knows that. The key for Steve Sarkisian is just putting Quinn Ewers in positions of confidence to go out and execute the game plan. And that means getting us set up for success on first and second downs. Moving on from the offense, I think our offense is going to be just fine. Our D-line has absolutely got to establish their dominance. They've got to show you why everybody is talking about them. Why is everybody talking about Devondre Sweat? Why is everybody talking about Byron Murphy? Why is everybody talking about Alfred Collins, Anthony Hill? These guys can get after the damn ball. Now, I do think that we have to make some major steps in getting the quarterback to the ground. In the Rice game, we had a couple of sacks get away from us. That's okay. Those are things that are correctable, right? The main thing is that we constantly get pressure on Jalen Milroe. Because what Middle Tennessee State showed is that when Jalen Milroe is flustered in the pocket, he is terrible off-schedule throws. He is not good on off-schedule throws. He is not good with pressure in his face. I don't think that his mental is ready for a game against a defense like the defense that we have coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium. Jalen Catalon is going to show you why everybody thinks that he is the best safety in the country. This guy's played a lot of SEC football. He's been in a lot of SEC stadiums, and he knows what it's going to take Saturday to walk in there and come out of there with the W. Jalen Catalon is going to be Texas's X factor on defense. He is extremely intelligent. He is a cerebral football player. Much like Jalen Ford is for that linebacking crew and for that front seven, Jalen Catalon is the brain for the secondary. He is going to have a majorly important role come Saturday. I'm calling it now. Jalen Catalon, 10 tackles and 2 picks. That's what's coming Jalen Catalon's way. There's my hot take. You're welcome. Go debate with your mama. I don't care. I think one stage that everybody is overlooking that is going to be absolutely critical is special teams. Since Steve Sarkisian has come to Austin, we have had an incredible amount of blocked punts, return punts, blocked field goals. You name it, our special teams does it. I have full confidence in the third phase of the game, which is extremely important that nobody is talking about. There's 3 phases of football, and you can't just win at 1 or 2 of them. Most of the time in games like this, you have to win all 3. Setting us up with short field and getting Alabama off the field and keeping them off the field is going to be absolutely critical in this game. The number one thing that we have to do as a unit is just pressure Jalen Milroe. Force Jalen Milroe to be the best player on the field, and I don't think that he can do that. All of this review, what is the final outcome? I'm calling it right now. Texas wins this game 27-13 and catapults themselves into the top 5 of the country. I genuinely believe this team has that much talent. I genuinely believe in this coaching staff. I believe that we have some of the best coaches in the entire country on this team. I believe that we have some of the best players in the country on this team. And I think Saturday we put it all together, and for the first time in over a decade, Texas football is actually back. Let's go, baby. Hook 'em.